Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury and Bulldog Nation, this may be the longest video that we've done. I assume it's going to be under 30 minutes, but it's going to be a while. But those of you that are interested in this, please pay attention. I am not going to put up graphics, and the reason why it takes longer to get up graphics, so we're just going to go with my interview. And I have typed up my outline on individual sheets and my monolithic list that I like. So I've organized this to lay it out the way I want. I want everybody to know as you begin to watch this that the legal strategy and claims are going to be at the end. And I also want you to know that this is public. So the defendants, all the hospitals, all their law firms, everybody's going to know it. I also want to know this because Glenn Fagan, the owner of Deters Law, and we always like to point this out just for fun because it drives him crazy. What I'm about ready to lay out for you in my studio is being done by me, Eric Deters, period, United States citizen. I am employed, of course, at Deters Law. So here we go. I don't want to repeat everything that I said yesterday, and I'm not going to. But I came up with a phrase that you guys became heroes to zeros, didn't you? Terrible. But reading all of these emails, my God, I stayed up all night. By the way, I'm slap happy, which means I do my best work when I'm slap happy when I've had no sleep. No sleep. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I live on naps. So those of you that are worried about my health, don't worry. But anyway, I just am blown away by the following. Now, I'm not even getting emotional going over this. How smart you guys are. You guys, as a collective group, are so damn smart. Number two, I'm blown away how much you love your jobs. Blown away. I'm blown away how informed you are. And thank you for helping get me informed. I have to catch up to you. I always tell every client, listen, I got to catch up to you and what you've been through. But I'm good at it because I'm the most well-balanced workaholic in the world. I'm blown away how determined you are. And guess what, CEOs of hospitals? If you don't think these people are ready to give up their careers, they are. Sad. Then finally, on this little introduction, how sick and cruel is it that these hospitals who make all the money in their corporate greed, they are forcing you to choose between your job, some of you have worked there 30 plus years, and getting an unwanted vaccination. How sick is that? Think about the CEOs, the COOs, the CFOs, the management, the managers, and the board of trustees, that they are doing that to you. It defines them like nothing else. Practical. I want you to keep emailing me. A group email is coming today. I want to stress this to you. We got to cut it off at some point in time because it's unbelievable. Over 1,000 and counting. What we're doing is we're printing them. We're responding to them. I am personally responding to all of them, except you're going to get some responses from staff while I'm doing the show. So if you get a response to an email during the show, it's from the staff. You know what my response has been. If I miss something during this show, don't freak out. Okay, I'm absorbing a ton of information. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on some things. But I want you to know, do not freak out. I'll get it. And then I want to go ahead and say this. Lawsuits. You don't have to watch the whole video. I want you to watch the whole video. But lawsuits will be filed by the end of this week, Monday at the latest. I talk after the show to our extraordinary drafter-in-chief. And what we're going to do is so much of this information is the same for every claim against every hospital. And then we'll substitute the plaintiff in and those specifics toward that hospital. But a lot of this is going to apply to every case. Now, what you should do, again, I'm going to cover the legal part, but I think to set the stage for that, I need to do this. What you should do right now, protest, organize, be brave, email and communicate to your board of trustees. Your board of trustees, they have businesses. You can organize boycotts of those board of trustees. For example, in the Durrani litigation, we tried to organize a boycott of Jeff Weiler's Chevrolet. Look who your board of trustees members are. By the way, they're probably getting sued. Look at them, boycott them. Here's another thing. Relative to St. E's, St. Elizabeth Medical Center, you need to be contacting Bishop Foys, Bishop Eifert, the guy that's going to replace him but hasn't replaced him yet. The bishop, if he wants, has a say at St. Elizabeth Medical Center. You may not have thought about that. You need to bombard the Catholic Church about what's going on at St. E's. You ought to all do the same thing, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. Hit Foys hard on what St. E's is doing. Is it Christian to force people to choose a job or a vax? Prepare your options for other jobs. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but go ahead and start your preparing. And by the way, you guys are so smart. With this job market, you got all kinds of career options. I mean, I know you don't want them, but trust me on this. The more that you prepare for that, the braver you can be. Deadlines. These deadlines that they want you to submit your religious and medical exemptions, and I'm going to cover that, by the way, in a minute. But listen, wait till the deadline. Don't jump the gun on that. Don't jump the gun on that. We already covered they can't afford to lose you. Class reps. Many of you have told me that you're willing to be class reps. I would love that. We'll be back in touch with you, but I can't stress this enough. If any more of you want to be class reps, email me. We can have more than one who's willing to put their name on the lawsuit. Don't quit, and don't tell them your final decision. There's no need to do that. Wait. Do things on deadlines, not too early. I call that. Find doctors not connected to them. If you are in, like, for example, St. E's, what do you think a St. E's physician is going to do for a medical exemption for you? Really? And I'm going to cover that. Now, I'm excited about this. I'm going to do this quick. This is the lay of the land. By the way, claims and legal comes next. But I just want to do the lay of the land. 99% survival rate. Are you healthy? Why should you get a vax if you're healthy? You're not at risk. By the way, I understand people at risk who get the vaccination, but are you such a person? Have you had antibodies? You know, they're forcing a vax on you without you even being tested whether you got antibodies. If you got the antibodies, why do you need a vaccination? Have you had COVID, like me? If you got COVID, you have some natural immunity. It's a fact. Why should you get vaccinated? CDC claims 0.005% breakthrough deaths. Reality, CDC, the hospitals aren't reporting deaths of breakthroughs. Thank you for all your emails. Folks, those of you that aren't involved in this, I've gotten emails from nurses who've worked on COVID floors, and they know people that got the vax who have died from this, seriously sick, high percentage, and they're saying they're not being reported. Wow. Flu deaths, 0.1%. Higher than the COVID, or as bad. If you had vaccination or you've had COVID, you're at near 0%. Fear-mongering with kids. This region of the tri-state, only 60% have been vaccinated. 40% are just stupid. Emergency approval, you all know this, not FDA approval. There are some serious side effects. Look at the risk. Google, read the side effects of these vaccinations. All the things they warn you about. Hell, the pharmaceutical companies are telling you them. Half the country has been infected already. FDA's not even close to approval. I heard that the Pfizer, maybe January. They keep saying, lying to you, that it's going to come in time. 165 million have been vaccinated. That helps with herd immunity. Per Rand Paul, you count the vaccinated and the people that have had COVID, we're near herd immunity. Science The history and the credibility of this thing, they have no credibility, folks. You have to be living under a rock to think, oh yeah, we should trust our government on this. Really? What they've done with the science, the history, and the credibility. By the way, here's how bad they call about experts. Dr. Durrani is a butcher. I'm not making this about Dr. Durrani. Do you realize that we've won 80% of these trials, which is 170% swing? Usually you only win 10%. We are winning 80% against Dr. Durrani. Even in Dr. Durrani cases, they come up with experts to say Durrani didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they're whores. They're for money. But, okay, so they can come up with experts in Durrani. You don't think that these people come up with their experts and their science that they want? American Frontline Doctors reports that a CDC whistleblower said 45,000 people who were vaccinated died in 3 days. They lie to workers. By the way, I saw this. TriHealth only has 30% of its people vaccinated. Only 30%. Why is the 70% resisting? The Ohio Hospital Association, the American Hospital Association, and the AMA, the American Medical Association, all come out, and every one of your hospitals have put this in their little email to you. And they said they recommend this. Well, no crap. Who gets the federal funds from the government? St. E's. 67 million plus 104 AAP, $172 million. Bethesda, 162 million. University Hospital, 159. Christ, 134. Good Sam, 98. Children's, 92 million. Mercy, 48 million. On and on and on. $1 billion to these hospitals. Oh, hospital associations, yeah, get the funds. They're all part of the American Communist Team. I saw a hospital said, do no harm. We're supposed to not do no harm. Really? What are you doing to these workers? Healthcare, a nurse told me, is not drug tested because they're so important. That there's not mandatory drug testing of hospital workers. But they're going to be forced to get a vax. They're only reporting the non-vax issues. I've already covered antibodies. They say the vax lessens side effects. What? So who cares? You should get a vax because, if I get it, I'm going to have a little bit less. Natural immunity. 50% of healthcare in the tri-state as a group is not vaxxed. 50% of healthcare workers are not vaxxed. You know what? You've been tested. You've been tested. You get your temps checked. You've been wearing masks. Well, guess what? It's been working fine, isn't it? Why are they mandating this when you guys have already been doing all of those things? And by the way, don't confuse this flu requirement. The flu thing is not even close to the same as this COVID issue. Not even close. It's a non-FDA approved shot. I want to stress this to everybody that all of you have employment at will, unless there's a contract or something else. But folks, that doesn't mean, so many people, lawyers say, you got employment at will. Yeah, you do have employment at will, but it doesn't mean they can do certain things to you. I'm going to continue. I'm just going to throw this out because it's so funny. My choice, my body. All these liberals who want you to get vaxxed, my choice, my body in killing a freaking baby. But not my choice, my body to get a vaccination. That brings it all into clear focus, doesn't it? So many of you, I hear about you being pregnant, nursing moms. You're nursing a baby and they want you to get vaccinated with this crap. Many of you have health issues. False advertising, my God, they've been bombarding you with false advertising. Warp speed was 9 months. 9 months. You comfortable with that? I understand that they did away with animal testing. I understand there was an issue of animals dying from this. There's no long-term safety testing. Come on, there's no long-term safety testing. They've been doing long-term safety testing for flus for decades. You might have personal family history of clots, drug reactions, and strokes. And we know about the ingredients, don't we? Some of the ingredients in this stuff is bad news. The oxides, I like to call them. There is a safe treatment. They now have safe treatment for people that get COVID. This isn't like when this first happened. They now have treatment that they didn't have before. The conflicts of interest is off the charts with the hospitals, pharmaceuticals, government. The censorship and brainwashing, my God, it's been off the charts. Also, lack of access to data. Now, drum roll. Some legal issues. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the American Jerry and Bulldog Nation, I have spoken about these things to lawyers in the office, outside the office, everything else. What I'm about ready to tell, and just so you know, we have not formally engaged any of you as a client. So what I'm telling you is not some secret thing. This is anybody in America can tell you what I'm about ready to tell you. Now, these are legal issues and legal things that I think you're going to love to hear. First off, there's a case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts. I think it was like 1907, way back when, where Massachusetts required a smallpox vaccination, and healthcare boards were deciding whether or not that was necessary. And the United States Supreme Court ruled in that case that didn't violate the 14th Amendment. Well, folks, not only that, was that a 1906 case. And by the way, remember, folks, a black person was once considered by the U.S. Supreme Court property in Dred Scott, and the U.S. Supreme Court once allowed segregation, and they didn't, under Brown versus Education, change that. So just because there's a Supreme Court decision from 1900 whatever, really? That can be distinguished 9 ways to Tuesdays. Now, you might want to say, well, that's the government, Eric. This is the hospitals. I'll get to that. Religious exemption. Any of you that have a religious exemption issue should go ahead and request that religious exemption and go through the process at the deadline. I can't stress this enough to you folks. We're not going to sit around, and then when they deny that or they screw around with you, you'll have a claim. But we're not going to sit around and wait for that process to be going. We're going to make this an issue in these lawsuits. Medical exemption. Many of you have a medical exemption issue, and you should go through that process too at the deadline. But remember, find a doctor that is going to do you right, not one in their group. The other thing is, if they deny this, we set them up for what's called a Title VII ADA disability issue. So go through that process, but we're not going to wait around for that process. We're going to bring claims pertaining to that right now. And then, of course, if you have issues, they have to do what's called a reasonable accommodation. I'm sure many of you have already heard that. Now, here is something that I'm excited about. Those of you that aren't familiar with the Trump lawsuit against social media, his claim is the government was working with the social media sites in order to censor. So therefore, it's unconstitutional. It's government action, not private action. Now, I just want to think about this. Think about how hospitals are far more connected to the government, big time, than social media even. So that same theory that Trump is using, we are going to use as it relates to hospitals. And under what's called a Section 1983 claim, you have to bring it there was government coordination. Are you kidding me? Biden, the federal government, Bashir, DeWine, the hospitals all doing this at the same time? Can you imagine what we'd find out in emails and through the discovery process? The hospitals, in my opinion, and lawyers' opinion, is that this is government action against you. They're not private employees. They're doing this at the direction of the United States government. Joe Biden threatened to withhold funds. He said that. I'm going to withhold funds. Government action. I think there's fraud. All kinds of fraud, including fraud in the inducement. They've made representations to do that are false that they want you to rely upon. By the way, people who have been vaccinated and regret it, give me a call, send me an email. Because I think there's fraud all over the place. There's conspiracy. Here's something I came up, HIPAA. HIPAA is supposed to protect you. By the way, HIPAA was a lie, folks. HIPAA was only meant to control you as healthcare workers of whistleblowing information about patients. Do you know you have no private cause of action for HIPAA? You don't get to sue. If somebody in a doctor's office released all my medical records online, I don't get to sue. I get to file a complaint, an administrative complaint. Did you know that? Maybe you didn't know that. But HIPAA was used just to control you. But guess what HIPAA is? HIPAA is supposed to keep your medical stuff confidential. Well, how's it confidential if they are going to know you've gotten vaccinated? Think about that. Here's a great one, workers' comp. I got a workers' comp buddy, specialist. He says, Eric, you need to tell all these people that if they've gotten vaccinated or they have to get vaccinated, and by the way, all you hospital lawyers who are watching this, tell your clients that everybody who gets a vax, by the way, I don't care if you just turn a little bit red. The slightest little freaking thing, workers' comp claim, any adverse reaction at all, they force us upon. He said, make sure you tell everybody that you're going to file workers' comp claims for all these people. Don't quit. I've already covered that. Delay your decision. By the way, since when? They always say, this is for the common good. I know many of you have gotten beat up by these people and say, oh, come on and do it. You should do this. Why are you being so? Since when is the common good part of our Constitution? Remember, our Constitution was created the government, and the Bill of Rights was to protect us from that government. The entire basis of our country was to protect us from bad government. University is a state hospital. State action. If you work at university. VA, federal hospital. Federal, state action. State action means federal or state. Guess what? You know this? You have to sue University Hospital in the State Board of Claims. Why? Because they're a state hospital. So when University Hospital tells you to get a vaccination, that's not state action? Really? First Amendment. All you people going out there and protest, can they fire you if you go out there and protest? Well, I guess they can, but you know what? Then you got a claim for violating of your First Amendment. You have a First Amendment right to protest. They fire you for it, you got a claim. This is something that came to me like a ton of bricks this morning. Those of you that follow my show a lot know I love simple. This might be the best cause of action we're going to bring. You know what it is? And this is where my medical malpractice experience comes in handy. It's called lack of informed consent. Before you have to, and all you healthcare workers know this, before you have a procedure done, you have to have full consent or the consent's no good. You and I both know that based upon the information that's been given and out there, there is no way anybody can consent informed, really, to a vaccination, which is a medical procedure. Lack of informed consent. This is not a vaccine. It's a great argument. This isn't a vaccine. I'm going to make that argument. Nuremberg Code. Many of you talk about the Nuremberg Code, and I agree. The Nuremberg Code was one of the few claims in that Houston lawsuit. Don't worry about that Houston lawsuit. The claims they brought were nothing like we're bringing. Nothing. Okay? Nothing. They did bring the Nuremberg Code lawsuit, but we'll throw that in there. And then the Canada case. Many of you have brought Canada case. It's good, but at the same time, Canadian law doesn't apply to the United States law, just so you know. All right. So that's the things we want to do. Now, I want to cover a few more things. The groups. We're going to be dividing all these emails in groups of what hospital? Hospitals, pharma, device, doctor groups, vendors, all states, other states, all hospitals, travel nurses, even non-medical companies. But those are non-medical companies are different than the rest of you. Vendors are different than these hospital people. But we're going to try to help anybody and everybody in all those. Now, I want to conclude with this. The bias. They say the Justice Department said mandatory vaccines appropriate. Really? Merrick Garden's Justice Department, 85% of Justice Department employees give to the Democrats. A Justice Department memo isn't law, folks. It isn't law. Garen Colvin. By the way, I got to tell you a funny story about Garen Colvin. We went to Thomas More at the same time. He went to Ludlow. He played baseball at Thomas More. He's gained a little bit of weight. Garen, you might want to cut off the carbs. Garen Colvin is now the president of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. And by the way, who owns the Enquirer and the Tri-State News? St. E's Budget. St. E's Budget. And Garen Colvin gets paid millions of dollars from this non-profit hospital. Joe Crow set that nice precedent. DeSantis in Florida, by the way, is fighting this. That helps us. There's going to be a lot that comes out of Florida. How about these bribes? Get a vaccination and bribe. You didn't listen to a bride. Joe Biden said, not nearly as smart as I thought you are. Think about half the people in the healthcare field hasn't gotten vaxxed, and he says that about you. You know, they mock the Trump. They want to give you a stereotypical Trump supporter in their minds, which is some hilljack that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Well, first off, that's bullshit, but it sure as hell doesn't apply to you guys. I've already covered that. The bullying, the shaming. Oh, how about Ohio? There's another government thing. Ohio spending tax dollars have Barry Larkin. Sorry, Barry and the rest of you. I don't give a damn if you got vaxxed. I don't. Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel. I've already covered the NBA. Oh, the NBA. I got it. The NBA playoffs. They let all the fans in, didn't they? I can't believe I forgot to cover this. The Delta variant. One of the excuses for all this, the Delta variant. There's no test for the Delta variant. There's just a COVID test. Oh, call it the Delta variant. Folks, this is the greatest scam in the history of this country and this world. What China did to the world is incredible. And you all know that we live in chaos. Remember the protest at St. E's tomorrow at 5 to 7. I'm going to be there. Bulldog Media is going to cover it. I've gotten information about other protests. We will promote the hell out of each and every protest with you. Protest, protest, protest. These hospitals cannot withstand countless protesting by all of you. Protest, raise hell till the cows come home. They can't lose all of you. And also, get your vaccinated friends who honor your decision not to get vaccinated. Get them to help you. Everybody can protest. Somebody's vaccinated should say, hey, I don't think it's right that they have to be vaccinated. We can beat this together. You have it within your power. I just like being your Air Force or your Navy or however you want to look at me. But I tell you right now, folks, we can beat, if we all stick together, we can beat this damn thing. Let's go do it. Let's have fun doing it. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. It is an honor